Hello, this is Melissa, and today is the 14th of May, 2023. The Redux is from December 30, 2018. Alan entitled it, The Fate of Debate or Battle of Prattle. The Net, Science, Humanism, Babble of Confusion. Arrogance seeks godhood in this strong delusion. The key points in this talk were propaganda, how it is used to brainwash us, the Pentagon's involvement with movie production, how we are guided by experts. In this case, he mentioned specifically Maurice Strong, and Maurice Strong being groomed by David Rockefeller to take his very significant role in the UN Rio Climate Agreement, sustainability. All of these things were Maurice Strong's babies, the sustainability agenda that is now running all aspects of our lives. I was struck in listening to this talk how much the war, it's not just what is happening with Russia and the Ukraine or, what is being reported, the latest aggressions of Israel towards Palestine. The war is really the war that is on all of us all the time. And again, I talk about this a lot, but Alan's kind of bird's eye aerial view of things. That yes, he could report the news, he could read a news story, but as someone I was speaking with today said that they didn't really listen or watch or read much news anymore and had kind of checked out of that, in fact, years ago, and they said, but I can't go through a day without listening to an Alan Watt talk because it's timeless and I somehow feel calmed when I'm listening to him, even if he's delivering the bad news. There is a lot going on right now, certainly in the United States, that comes under war on the people. And I just wanted to mention a few stories. One of the things that has been going on in the U.S. right now is the end of something called Title 42. And you can look into that yourselves, but you will find conflicting information when you do. Title 42 was what they describe as a COVID-era policy, which allowed the U.S. to turn away migrants immediately based on pandemic health concerns, and that ended Thursday night. Officials said that they were prepared to deal with a marked increase in migrants, but by Friday evening, according to UPI, that had not materialized. However, those of us who are watching even mainstream news now, but certainly any alternative source is showing people camped on the border. The city of El Paso, Texas, literally just tents and people in sleeping bags. And other people have seen citizen journalists on the ground showing the Border Patrol and I believe it's the U.S. National Guard just helping different migrants onto buses as they're transported to different parts of the U.S. In the talk that I put up last week, Alan was reading from Jacques Attali's A Brief History of the Future. And he mentioned another book that Attali had written in the year 2000 entitled Millennium, Winners and Losers in the Coming World Order. What Attali said in that book was that there would be hordes, he called them hordes, of immigrants that would push over the southern border of the U.S. He said the next boat people that you see will be Americans who are seeking work in other parts of the world. But this is not just an issue that is happening in the U.S. because people in different parts of the world have been experiencing an influx of migrants. And they're seeing the same thing. It wasn't a couple of months ago that I mentioned stories that were coming out of Ireland where villages are overnight taking on more than their own population amount in immigrants. And they're being housed in hotels. And that has been going on in the U.S. for quite a while. They actually do take over hotels And someone last week sent me an article out of Oregon. And they said, so while you have the immigrants who are being brought in and housed in hotels, what you have in Oregon is a California-based nonprofit called Urban Alchemy. And what that is doing is managing the tent accommodations for homeless Americans. So these, we don't know why they're homeless. Are they drug users? Are they mentally ill? Are they families that have fallen upon hard times? After the 2008 bank crash that was orchestrated, of course, there was such an increase in the homelessness, the tents, the people living in their automobiles. Alan and I watched quite a few citizen journalist footage on this, and it was just unbelievable to see cities everywhere with cars and minivans and just lined up on the street, and these were families living there who had lost their homes. So this organization out of California called Urban Alchemy was hired by the government of someplace in Oregon to manage the city's mass tent encampment. And what was uncovered was that Urban Alchemy is spending approximately $4,000 per tent per month to maintain these sites. That amount is so staggering. This is a tent, and to keep the tent up costs $4,000. And I looked into Urban Alchemy, and I couldn't find too much. I could not find a board of directors. I did find their financials, and they're very well funded to the tune of many millions per year. The CEO is a woman named Lena Miller, and I can't find too much about Lena Miller except she has a sociology degree, and she's been involved in nonprofit organizations dating back to the late 90s. All I could find where they got their money was government grants. I was thinking, I'll find a smoking gun on this, because that kind of expenditure, $4,000 to keep a tent up, is just staggering to me. But anyway, government funding of a nonprofit, of an NGO, what could the government do with the millions that they are giving Urban Alchemy to rectify the problem of the homelessness, city by city? That's one thing. As I was looking what was going on with the migrants who are sleeping in tents or sleeping in sleeping bags because of the revoking of Title 42, what I did find was an interesting story that did not have to do with that, but it had to do with El Paso. This is from a paper I'd never heard of, a publication called Texas Scorecard, Real News for Real Texans. And the title of the article from 18 April is Liberal Billionaire George Soros Funds Movement to Rid El Paso of Reliable Energy. The National Sunrise Movement wants to force the government to end the reign of fossil fuel elites. While Texans raise concerns about the reliability of the state's power grid, liberal billionaire George Soros is funding an organization that wants to make El Paso dependent on unreliable energy sources. The group Sunrise El Paso is lobbying citizens to adopt a climate charter, calling for the city to use all available resources and authority to limit its use of so-called fossil fuels. If voters amend the city charter by approving Proposition K in a May 6 election, the El Paso City Council must create a climate department and hire a climate director to determine the climate impact of city laws and advance the cause of climate justice. The city would also have to form a 9-member Climate Commission, which would oversee the implementation and enforcement of climate policy. Sunrise El Paso is self-described, radical activist group that aims to end the exploitation of the masses by eliminating the use of fossil fuels. The group describes itself as youth-led and Latinx-led. We're building an army of ordinary young people to make the climate crisis an urgent priority across America and here in the El Paso area by ending the corrupting influence of fossil fuel executives on our politics and elected leaders who stand up for the health and well-being of all people regardless of class, race, or economic status. Sunrise El Paso is tied to a number of left-wing organizations. One of them, the Frontierix Fianza Fund, pays bail fees for illegal aliens detained in the United States. During the organization's first year of operation, the Fianza Fund posted 54 bonds for illegal aliens, including several described as LGBTQ plus compañeros. Another, the West Fund, works to make abortions accessible to people in need and promotes abortion without borders. Familias Unidas del Chamizal, the Center for Interdisciplinary Environmental Justice, and the El Paso chapter of the American Federation of Teachers are also among Sunrise El Paso's allies. Sunrise El Paso is part of the National Sunrise Movement, okay? So you're hearing that. It's a national movement whose supporters claim they are the climate revolution. Liberal billionaire George Soros' Political Action Committee, Democracy PAC, funds the National Sunrise Movement through the group's Sunrise PAC. The Sunrise PAC receives funding from a slew of other radical groups, including the 1630 Fund, the Tides Foundation, the Grove Action Fund, the Wallace Global Fund, and the Rockefeller Family Fund. The 1630 Fund has been accused of funneling money to Democrat candidates and other liberal groups, etc. Grove Action Fund provides grants to the American Civil Liberties Unions, Planned Parenthood, Everytown for Gun Safety. The Wallace Global Fund and the Rockefeller Family Fund routinely fund studies and groups working to eliminate the use of reliable energy. El Paso citizens will vote on Proposition K on May 6th. And the follow-up on that was that this did not pass. According to TexasStandard.org, El Paso voters soundly reject Proposition K climate charter. Now, the spin on this story is that wealthy businessmen at the Houston-based Consumer Energy Alliance poured over $1 million into television and web advertisement and campaign mailers urging voters to oppose the measure, whereas supporters of the climate charter only spent about $30,000 in the election. But again, think about this, folks. They were funded by Rockefeller Family Fund and George Soros, so I don't know if I believe that disparity of funding. But what really struck me here is that we know that at the highest level, traditional energy, so we're talking fossil fuels here, are moving themselves towards ESG, environment, sustainable, diversity, equity, inclusion, all of that falls under ESG. And they are moving towards what they call renewables. And if you look at anybody's corporate statement, whether it's Exxon Mobil or, just pick one of the big energy companies, you will see this move towards renewable energy. But however this got shot down, it is a good thing. The manager, Ana Zuek Fuentes, the campaign manager with Sunrise El Paso, said launching this campaign was a huge risk, but the fight was worth it. I don't know why it was a huge risk, because they were well funded by important people. She went on to say, the campaign gave us a platform to mobilize our community and grow a base that will continue to fight power. Success has been delayed, but our movement was not defeated. This is just the beginning of the fight for climate action here in El Paso and beyond. The Consumer Energy Alliance Southwest, which I think is that Houston-based group, said the results show that a vast majority of El Pasoans believe that Proposition K was the wrong path to move the city towards a clean energy future. I just share this with you because I think if you are living in the States, it's very possible that in a city that you live in or near you, you are going to find this same group, the National Sunrise Movement. You are likely to find that in an area near you. Why I'm bringing up a few of these stories, immigrants flooding in whatever country that you're living in. I've been talking last week, I wrote about Jacques Attali and what he was up to lately, basically funding something very similar to the Opportunity Zones through his nonprofit called Positive Planet. And what these really are tax havens for the rich, and they are worldwide. So in the U.S., we not only have Opportunity Zones, but we also have Attali's U.S. version of Positive Planet, and these are thousands of NGOs that are being very well funded to not do much of anything, but to exist, to be tax havens for the wealthy. The National Sunrise Movement says we are the climate revolution. So just take a peek. They say that they are national. Right now they seem to be focused mostly on, well, actually no, I'm looking at a map. I see them that they literally are all over the U.S. There's Arizona, California, Colorado, Connecticut, District of Columbia, Georgia, Florida, Illinois, Kansas, Kentucky, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts. Some of these states, they have multiple, so we're talking many different cities in these states. Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, New York, lots in New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia. They have multiple hubs: Sunrise Tucson in Arizona, Sunrise Bay Area, Sunrise Los Angeles Youth. See, they're targeting them, not just cities too. Sunrise Lowell High School, that's in San Francisco. Sunrise Naugatuck High School in Naugatuck, Connecticut. You see, going for young people because they're the revolution, you see. What Alan talks about in this redux is the idea that there are thousands of these types of NGOs. They're everywhere, and we're being pushed, as he says, towards austerity. We're being pushed towards not having reliable energy and maximum chaos. And the line, again, the little poem for the talk, the fate of debate or battle of prattle. The net, science, humanism, babble of confusion, arrogance seeks Godhead in this strong delusion. And the Godhead here was Maurice Strong and his baka over the underground water system that he actually wanted to exploit. But the Strongs, Maurice and his wife Hannah, were very involved in various New Age ideas, kind of earth worshipy, New Age religious ideas. But this idea that the elite are somehow special, you see that everywhere. You know, the thing that I wrote about Attali, they called him at a conference that he spoke at, he was H.E., and I'm not sure, I really don't know if that's His Excellency or His Eminence. But whether he's eminent or excellent, this is a title. Those are titles that you give to heads of state or high-ranking church officials in the Catholic Church. You know, I mean, and of course Attali is not Catholic. He is Jewish, but he is either His Excellency or His Eminence, because the religion of the people who are moving us step by step without a pause into the direction that they want us to be, they do consider themselves to be gods. So look carefully at the people that you think are on your side, that you think, well, somehow this person, they are an exception. And the media is abuzz right now about Twitter, because Tucker Carlson has announced that he's going to be doing his show on Twitter. And last night, Elon Musk appointed the new CEO. And her name is Linda Yaccarino. And she comes from the world of corporate advertising. She worked for Turner Entertainment and NBC Universal. And she's also had these political appointments. So nobody likes her in terms of this appointment to Twitter. I'll just give you a few things. This is from her wiki. She joined the Ad Council. This is the government Ad Council in 2014. Well, it's a non-profit organization that produces, distributes, and promotes public service announcements. Alan is talking about propaganda in this talk. So the Ad Council, propaganda. She joined the Ad Council in 2014. In 2018, President Donald Trump appointed her to the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition. Yaccarino became chair of the Ad Council's Board of Directors in January 2021. That term lasted 6 months. During the time that she was chair of that, she partnered with the Biden administration to create a coronavirus vaccine campaign that featured Pope Francis. She also chaired the Future of Work Task Force for the World Economic Forum. Rolling Stone magazine, this is definitely a publication that veers toward liberal thinking and writing. But they had something to say about Linda Yaccarino today. They said, Twitter finally agrees on something, hating Musk's new CEO. After some tumultuous months at the tech giant, NBC Universal advertising chief Linda Yaccarino will take the reins. No one is happy. In December, Elon Musk asked Twitter to vote yes or no on the question of whether he should step down as the head of the tech giant, noting he would abide by the results of the informal poll. And more than 57% of respondents said that he should. So 5 months later, he honored his word by hiring a new CEO that absolutely nobody wanted, Linda Yaccarino. I'll scroll through. I'll post this article from Rolling Stone, and you can read it for yourselves. But a couple of the meatier points of it, everyone has found a reason to distrust this woman. Leftists and liberals noted that in 2018, Donald Trump appointed Yaccarino to the President's Council. I already told you that. It's not a particularly damning connection, but she also follows a number of right-wing extremists on Twitter, from the anti-LGBTQ account Libs of TikTok to conspiracy theorist Jack Posobiec to attorney Lynn Wood, known for his connections to the QAnon. I suspect this woman follows a lot of people on Twitter, but that's neither here nor there. It didn't help that Yaccarino is also executive chair of the World Economic Forum, an international lobby for corporate interests that sits at the center of many right-wing conspiracy theories. Steve Bannon was among those to complain that Musk had given the CEO job to a Davos globalist, referring to the Swiss mountain resort where the WEF holds its annual conference. Then they go on to tell us that Musk himself has criticized the World Economic Forum. Of course, he's also attended the event. So there you go. There she is. But to people who decry Tucker Carlson for going to Twitter as his new platform, for people who think that Musk is the savior of free speech, I encourage you to take the bird's eye view, to see that these people, here, who is it? Musk, the defender and savior of free speech, decrying censorship, or is it Musk, whose money seems to come entirely from his promotion of electric cars? I don't remember what they call that, the term in investing, but the valuation of Tesla, the market capitalization, I believe, is the term that they use. But the market capitalization of Tesla was more, by far, than the market capitalization of General Motors and Ford Motors combined. This tells you that the value of Tesla was completely made up. Anyone and everyone knows that there is not an infrastructure. to support electric vehicles as our means of transportation. In California, the UK has said no more gas-fueled engines past 2030. That's the UK. California has said the same thing, but there is no infrastructure. There will be no infrastructure for everyone to be driving an electric vehicle. So the point is, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, get the people out of vehicles altogether. So is it that Musk? Is it that Musk? Or is it the Elon Musk, who is the grandson of one of the key founder players of Technocracy Inc.? Is it the Elon Musk who is working on creating the Tesla bot so that the robot can do all those dangerous, repetitive, boring tasks so that you don't have to? But don't worry. He's supporting universal basic income. He says it will actually be necessary because of the rise of robots. So wait a minute. He's creating the problem, but he's offering you the solution. Okay, that's okay. It's that Elon Musk. Or is it the Elon Musk of Neuralink, the brain-computer interface? Well, he said that it's to treat serious brain diseases. But the eventual goal is human enhancement. And that's sometimes called transhumanism. Is it that Elon Musk? Again, I'm just reminding you of what Alan Watt often reminded you. Don't think that these people are your champions. They have their own agenda. It's the same agenda, and it relentlessly moves forward. That being said, if we are aware of who our enemies are, and we are focused on what they're doing and how they are meddling through their funding of NGOs and organizations in our own towns and cities, these